Working on our butterfly today. It's still a little hot. I'll move him so you can see what the pattern on the table looks like. And it's kind of rounded here, and the top wing is pretty much what I drew, without the little inside pieces yet. The bottom wing, it was rounded on the picture that I liked, but I made a different choice. I made it have a point on it. Let's make sure y'all can. Yeah. I made it have a point on it here. And I made a couple of different versions of that last night. I just made me some spirals. Here was one that was a little different, and I could have maneuvered it around and figured out where I wanted to cut it. That one would have worked, no problem. And I did one that was more like our picture, more of a rounded deal. And I didn't like that one as good. I mean, it's not all the way around like our picture. It probably might have cut it off somewhere up here like that. Would have looked a little more like the picture. But it's okay to change your mind in the middle. And when I got this one this morning, that looked ideal. I made this little piece last night just by bending a piece of 3/8 bar in half, which is this end, and flatten it down with the hammer. Then I heated it up again, and I bent these pieces out, and then this end's welded, just welded together and rounded with the grinder. But our little butterfly is working out pretty good. I just cut these pieces out with the torch and welded them back together. They still need cleaning up some, as antennas aren't perfect yet. And I welded this. This was a 1/2-inch bar, or is a 1/2-inch bar coming down here, round rod. And I welded it on there solid with this 3/8, and then I ground it off and just kind of blended it as best I could. I still have to clean up a couple of these welds. And then I have some other pieces that I'm looking at. I can still use a piece of this to maybe do one of these curves here, like that. So you can cut it off anywhere you want. And I had another piece. This is another one of those eyes. We might do that somewhere up here. I like the swirls like that. I think of as a spot. A lot of butterflies will have, especially on their back wing, they'll have an eye, look like a owl's eye or a predator's eye, and that keeps them safe. That keeps the birds from biting them. But you know, could do this up here somehow, some which way, like that maybe. I still have these little leaves. I think they're interesting. I may do that. And for the little leaves, I had a couple that I had made. Here's one. Here's one that I made with intention of putting a little leaf on it, and I flattened out this end so I can weld on the back of the leaf and have a good flat area for the leaf to rest. But I'm thinking about doing something with that leaf. I've got a couple of those and a couple of little pieces. But we're just gonna see what we got piecewise and cut us up some stuff and stick it in there and see what it looks like. That's the only way I know to do it. You can have a picture, a drawing. To me, that's wonderful, and I like that drawing that I picked out. But it doesn't have to be that way at the end. You can make it that way, or you can be a little more fluid and see what comes out. And I like this a whole lot so far. I like that a lot better than the round. And I like the eyes portion of it. I think that's cool. And so we'll keep on going with that. We got our butterfly done and cleaned up. Probably take a little more time to clean them up. Didn't follow my pattern exactly. I'll put you back over on the pattern. But the pattern's just there for an idea, more or less, for me. I don't go perfect on it. The major thing was I pulled this out and not made it round. And I didn't put this little gizmo in here. I didn't think it was going to need it. It may need it later, and I've got it if I need it. Right there it is. I may put it in there later, but I don't think it's necessary at the moment. It's looking a little bit crowded, so I thought I'd leave that alone. But that's it, pretty much cleaned up and welded. I I would have rather not had to put those tack wheels on this side and just left it nice and smooth and even like I had it, but this is going to be in the public, and unfortunately in the public means you're going to have the public around. I welded his antennas on pretty hard, but they're the weak point in this, and this little leaf is a weak point in that it's not welded but on the back. It's not welded to this piece per se like this one is up here. This one is welded on the underside back to this. So it's welded in 2 points. And when you've got something welded in 2 points, just as this little curve is welded here and there, when you weld it 2 points, 3 is better, but two is usually good enough to keep them from pulling it off if you welded it pretty good. But these little dots, I don't think will be an issue, but I don't like them, but they're necessary, unfortunately. I did not put welds between the body segments right here. I did on the back, but not on the front, because I knew I was going to weld it to this 1/2-inch round bar here. So, and I welded it solid on the middle section there, and then put a spot weld. I'll show you. I welded it solid along the middle, and then a spot weld on each, tack weld on each side, and I think that's good enough. And I welded it in here across the joint there, but I think it's going to be in amongst the flour, so I hope they can't reach and grab it. We haven't got the flour worked out yet. That's tomorrow's project. But I draw my picture to scale on my table mainly to keep my sizes pretty close, so I'm not making something either way too big or way too small. I want to keep the size relatively right. We've got our flour pieces basically forged out. This is our little centerpiece. I just cut that out with the torch and then textured it. I'll show you what I textured it with. I just took a ball peen hammer and I took my grinder with the cutoff wheel and just put a few, like a star kind of shape in it. And heated this up, of course, and then just hit it. And it leaves kind of a rough texture. It's kind of what I was looking for, like a center of a flower. Looks kind of bumpy. It's like I guess the stamen part of the flower or whatever. Alright, and then we've taken our flat leaves and we've dished them with the anvil with our circle dishing tool that we built for the anvil. And then I just dished the front side here, and then the back side I laid it on the anvil and hit down flat like this to flatten the center, so it will just lay it in one plane basically. So we lay it in plane. Now what I haven't done is made them fit together yet, and so that may take some fiddling, pick one over the other or one on top of the other, making them fit exactly the way they'll be before we weld them. But that's what I'm going to do next, is clean these up so I can weld on them. I'll run the wire brush over them on the drill, not on the drill, on the grinder. Clean them up, and then we'll take a few minutes and we'll play with these and make them fit together so that they look like a flower. And this flower is kind of not looking straight on it, you're looking at the side of it a little bit, and so you got to play with this and turn this so it looks like the right, I think like that, the right dimension, so it looks correct with the flower itself, the petals. Just a quick update on our flower. I don't have this welded on, but I welded the leaves together. Worked out pretty good, except I think this leaf here, or this petal I guess, moved on me because it looks too long for our shape. So I've got a mark on here, and I'm going to cut this off, just change it a little bit. I think just cutting that part off, make it more symmetrical. It's supposed to be longer than the others because it's twisted like the flower. You're not looking dead on it, you're looking off to the side, but it looks a little too long to me. If we look at our pattern, see from here, it pokes out some, but I guess it might poke out that much, but it just looks a little odd right now, so I'm going to cut that part off. And then I've got our center. We're going to play with that, twisting it around. We got to cover up our wells, of course. We're going to clean those up before we weld this on. And so we'll twist this around so it looks right. It covers up the wells. That's the main thing. So something like that probably. And then what we'll do is we'll plug weld this. Here, and I did that on purpose so I can put my center in the right spot and I can plug weld all of these leaves down, and that will help the leaves and it'll keep our center in place. And I went back on the back here, and I want to weld at least in 2 places, you know, of course along the where it touches up here, and then at least one other place, so that this keeps from some yahoo bending on it. And this one I didn't get that. Didn't have a spot for it because it didn't touch quite right. And so I'm thinking about either adding me a little piece of metal on here and weld it in so it elevates, because it's a pretty good gap in there. It can't really weld there. So I may just stick a little piece of metal there, or I may just weld on it until it builds it up. I did that on a couple of these others, but it's looking pretty good. Feeling pretty strong. You gotta, if you're gonna put this in the public, it's got to be bulletproof. And so, thus far, once we get our flower finished up, we've got our butterfly as well here. And so our butterfly would be something like, put it back in the pattern. The pattern was like that, so the butterfly is like this. And it would lay on there. I'd probably scoot it up until both of these are tilted down, I guess. I can just tilt it down. So that butterfly touches at least in a couple places too. I don't want that floating out there either.